Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. This is Netflix's 240th film from 2020. It's the Argentine crime thriller Intuition, or La Corazonada, directed by Alejandro Montiel. It stars Lopilato and Joaquin Furriel. I'm Jesse. I'm here solo. This is going to be a short one. I'm going to put it out there early. This film, Intuition, I don't have an awful lot to say about it. So really short, really quick. Thanks for hanging around. If you want to check this film out, haven't seen it, give us a pause and come back later, because I'm going to start with the fast flicks, where I'll do a quick summary of what the film is all about. So this one is about a female detective who's tasked with investigating her partner while trying to solve a crime with him as well. Easiest way I could put it together. We like to look at how a film's ended up on Netflix, and this one, I don't have an awful lot, as we often see with international films, but this is Netflix's first film from Argentina. However, it is a prequel to a film from 2018 called Perdida, and it is followed by a sequel called Pippa, which was released in 2022, and that one is a Netflix original. So the 2018 film Perdida is on Netflix. Netflix in certain territories call it a Netflix original, but it's not an official Netflix original worldwide, so we haven't covered it on this show, but this is sort of a prequel to that one. And then there's another film as well, so a couple of different films following this character, Pippa, which we'll talk about very soon. This film's actually based on the Spanish novel called The Virgin in Your Eyes, written by Florencia Achieves, and that's literally all I could really find on this film. Around the world, the actual Spanish title, La Corazonada, is, or translates to The Hunch. In Portuguese, it's called The Omen. In Italian, it's called The Friend. In Polish, it's called Conjecture. And in Russian, it's called Premonition. So all sort of one word, things that mean the same thing, and that's what this film's about. Intuition, I'm not 100% sure, is a really good title. It's pretty in your face. This was released on the 28th of May, 2020, worldwide on Netflix. Filmed in and around Buenos Aires in Argentina. What are the critics and audiences saying? Rotten Tomatoes, not very good at all. Sits at 14%, that's 14% on 7 reviews, so that is very rotten. The audience, a little bit higher at 32%. That's on less than 50 ratings, but again, very, very low. IMDb, a little bit better. It sits at a 5.5 out of 10 on 2,900 ratings. Letterboxd, fairly low, sits at a 2.1 out of 5 on a bit over 1,600 ratings, but it's been logged by 2,300, so a bit of a mixed bag, more on the negative side than positive. What are my thoughts? What are my only thoughts for this one? I struggled with this to start with. There's so many different storylines, crimes, arcs to try and follow and to keep up with, but I didn't mind the film in the end. I think, it looked fine, the performances were fine. It's not that bad a film to sort of chuck on if you like crime stories. You can't sort of put it on the background because obviously it's not in English for non-Spanish people, speaking people, but I mean, it's okay. It's okay. So the characters, let's talk about some characters in this one. I mentioned before, Pippa, Manuela, this rookie cop. I haven't seen the 2018 film Perdida, so I don't know much about the character, and this film doesn't really give us much as the main character, because the only real development we get from her is that she lost a friend when she was younger, really. I haven't watched the other films in the series, but sort of if you set this up as a prequel, surely you'd think that you'd probably give a bit more backstory or development about her, because, she's this cop that wants to do the right thing, wants to solve crimes, wants to do what her boss wants to do, wants to do what her partner wants her to do, and that's about it. That's all we really get. And her partner, speaking of her partner, Francisco Wanérez, he's sort of the chief and her partner, and we find out that he's lost his wife recently. He's got health issues, especially with his heart, and he's sort of struggling with her loss. And he's a cop that's respected around town as a good cop, even if he does things based on his intuition rather than following the rules. So that word intuition is going to come up a little bit throughout this discussion. The only other real character, like Roger's the sort of the DA, I think, or the head boss, he's hell-bent on proving that Wanérez is a bad cop and sort of that he's gone after this kid called Galvin for killing his wife, and that's sort of the gist of this whole story of what Pippa needs to do. The other character, there's another cop called Ordonez. He's sort of this side cop who always seems to be there as a support for Wanérez, and I don't want to spoil it, but he does play a big part towards the end. And then we've got Minerva, who's this suspect that they sort of, the main crime that we're following is she's apparently killed her best friend, so the backwards and forwards is about her. Really hard characters to talk about because, like I said at the start in my sort of fast flicks, it's really hard because the characters aren't really developed because there's so many little different crimes and events happening that there's no real big focus on one thing because there's about 3 different things all going at once. The director, Alejandro Montiel, 10 directing credits, 12 writing credits, all from Argentina. Obviously, he did this film as well as Pippa, which is on Netflix from 2022, the third in the series. Eventually, we're probably going to cover that on this show. Time to talk about some scenes. What are some scenes in this film that stood out? There's one scene that I really enjoyed, and this is that character Minerva, who goes back to her house after she's sort of been questioned by the police. She gets a phone call to tell her that this killer, that they think's a killer, this kid called Mauro, he's escaped and may be looking for her, and it was really tense and creepy as he entered the house. So that was really well done, but the scene was sort of ruined because he gets killed and he's bleeding and he puts his hand down the glass window and the blood goes down the window. That was just a little bit ordinary. So that was good. Some things that I didn't like in this one, I think the whole opening scene, I mean, it looked good. It was nice. It set up the film well, but that crime was solved and done with in that opening scene. So it was kind of pointless other than showing Juanez's dedication to his job. So it looked good. Would have been nice if we sort of followed this serial killer that was chasing girls the whole time rather than we see it and he's killed in the opening scenes. But it does open up for Juanez as a cop. Manuela, I mentioned, so, she goes to this shrine for this Galvin kid at some stage, sort of investigating it, and these guys on motorbikes drive around. They pop up at the end of the film, but it just felt really weird watching it early in the film. There's this autopsy scene where Juanez and Manuela sort of go backwards and forwards about blood and blood dripping and reiterating that they need to find the murder weapon. They have to find this murder. We know as an audience that they need to find that murder weapon. It's not needed. Manuela sort of sets up this desk in this storage locker to sort of investigate Juanez. Laughable. And finally, Manuela asks Juanez, what his secret to being a good cop is, and his response is, it wouldn't be a secret then. Just funny. Theme, some ideas in this one. I think that, the idea of intuition, like Juanez has got a lot of it. We see it throughout the film. The idea of truth and lies and what's justice, and everyone lies at some stage, and the job or the role of police is to find out the truth. And then through police too, we do see a bit of corruption in the law force in this, deals being made for information, deals being made for hits to cover up things. And that can lead into the idea of guilt as well, I guess, that, everyone is guilty of something at some stage, whether it's not trusting someone or covering up crimes or doing things for your kids. There can be guilt in that as well. What did I take away from this one? I think, I'm not sure why, because I always watch Netflix and I have subtitles on and I have the native language. And for me, this started with the English dub. It was horrendous. It took me about 10 minutes to work it out because I was like, what on earth is what's going on? And I was like, oh, it's not an English language film. So I had to stop it, go back to the start again, put the subtitles on, put the original language on. And as we've said before on this show, that's how films should be watched, in their native language. Questions or thoughts or ideas. Like I mentioned before, this opening scene, they're like these religious cult-like killings, and it's still stuck in my head. Why did they include this crime and this criminal if they didn't follow up or have any more of these stories, especially when it's sort of first 5 minutes, yep, cool, we'll show these detectives working together and that's it. That really annoyed me. The other thing too, I think, like I mentioned these two, there are other films in this series. Would you want to go and watch the other two? I mean, I guess I'm going to have to do one of them when we get to it in soonish, in a couple of years, the Pippa film, but I don't know, I'm not in a big rush to go and watch it. I enjoyed it, it was fine, but I don't think I'm, it's going to go to the top of my watch list to go and watch the other ones. And that sort of brings us to the end, I think. As I said, don't have a lot to say on this film, but we do give the films a rating out of 5 and work out where it sits. And for me, like I said, watching it at the start was really slow, but I did get into it and I enjoyed it. And then putting the notes together to talk about it today, like I was looking back on it and, probably it's dropped a little bit for me because there's a bit of nonsense in it and there's a bit of stuff that just doesn't quite sit right that probably is a little bit laughable and I shouldn't be laughing at really. I'm still giving it a 2.5 out of 5 though. 2.5 out of 5 for me for this film, Intuition. We've got on socials, we've got Twitter, we've got Facebook and Instagram. Give us a follow, give us a like if you can. The question I wanted to put on there for this film is, when have you had to use your intuition? I don't know. I'm just trying to tie something to the title because to me that title is a little bit ridiculous, and as is the idea of, it's okay to have a cop that uses intuition, but we need a bit more development of that character rather than being like, yep, he uses intuition on every single case. That's where I'm at for this one. We're back next week. Thanks for listening. We do have another international film next week. It's the 2020 Indian Hindi language film called Choked, Paisa Bolta High. It's directed by Anurag Kashyap. It stars Sayami Kerr, Roshan Mathu, Amruta Subhash, and Rajshir Deshpande. That's what we've got next week. No idea what it's about. Looking forward to giving it a watch and coming back and letting you know what I think. As always, thanks for listening, and I will see you next week.